What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Texas Rangers report. And in this video, we are going to be discussing a Eric Hosmer trade rumor. And this has come up. I don't know what source has given this rumor. I found it on Instagram. It said the Cubs and the Rangers were interested. Well, I think the Cubs are interested in Eric Hosmer right now, but I think the Rangers were interested in Eric Hosmer last summer at the trade deadline, and the extent of the interest, I'm not really sure. So basically, I remember last deadline, obviously the Rangers had Joey Gallo, and obviously multiple teams are going to be interested in that. And the Padres have AJ Preller, a former director in the Rangers organization. So obviously he's going to be interested in Joey Gallo. And obviously the Padres don't want Eric Hosmer. So the Padres try to work out a deal where we would get Eric Hosmer and a like a legit prospect. So that would have been either CJ Abrams, Campusano, the catcher, Robert Hassel, the outfielder, and Joey Gallo would have had to have been in the trade. But if you look at Eric Hosmer's contract, it's terrible. You get him for the next 4 years, and it's all player options. And obviously, since he hasn't been playing well, he's going to accept those player options. So back then, I didn't really think an Eric Hosmer trade makes sense, and right now, I don't think it really makes sense for the Rangers. And yes, you would get a CJ Abrams who could be a legitimate player for you at the major league level, or Robert Hassel or Luis Campusano, but the amount of money that you're taking on, where you could go spend it on a starter or a relief pitcher. And I get that the Rangers do have money that they could spend, but you have to take on that contract for the next 4 years. However, you could get creative with this. You could take on the contract and then you could restructure it. So maybe you have it to where you pay most of the money in like the first 2 years. So then whenever the Rangers are trying to compete, 2023, they can get him off the books. Or maybe they can structure it to where they pay him like the Bobby Bonilla deal, to where you just give him a lot of money for multiple years down the road. So you could get creative with this. And let's be honest, Eric Hosmer, he's not the worst player in the world, but for what he's getting paid, he is way priced. So I don't think a trade for Eric Hosmer makes sense at all. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. But if you were to trade for him, you could get creative in how you structure the deal. You could have a buyout. But how would he fit in with the Rangers? Obviously, we have Nate Lowe, so I don't think he'd be playing first base. The DH spot is open, so he could go and play DH. And if you look at his stats on Fangraphs, he actually is pretty solid versus right-handed pitching. Against left-handed pitching, his entire career, he's been terrible. And even though he's won a Gold Glove, he isn't that great on defense. It's just not a trade I'm interested in. Although Will Myers, that's somebody that you could look at because he is $20 million, so more expensive on an average annual year basis. However, you only get him for the 1 year. You could probably take on a prospect. From Tyler Rainey. Oh, I forgot. My mouse isn't working. Will the lockout be over before spring training, or will it be pushed back? I think that the lockout pushes into some of the spring training games, but I do think they get it resolved in spring training because they don't want to miss out on any of the regular season games. Because if you miss out on any of the regular season games, then players are gonna lose money, owners are gonna lose money. and nobody's really going to be happy. So I think you miss a little bit of the spring training, um, but I don't think they'll push it back. I think actually they could. They could. And then you would have like a later start to the season. That would be interesting. But let's be honest, no progress has been made between the owners and the players. So there's been no action right now. Um, Players have been signing. It's been players on minor league deals because they aren't a part of the association. If you're on the 40-man roster, you're part of the association. So that's why minor league deals have been happening. And coaches have been signing. The Athletics just signed a new manager. I thought this was interesting. Let's say the lockout goes on. If I have this correct, I don't think the minor league season would be affected at all because unless those guys aren't on the 40-man roster. So right now, Josh Young isn't on the 40-man roster. Justin Foscue isn't on the 40-man roster. Those guys could go and play their minor league season because they aren't a part of the association, which I think is interesting. But a guy like Sam Huff or Ezekiel Duran, they can't play, which is interesting. Yeah, but going back to the Eric Hosmer trade rumors, if you look up Eric Hosmer into Google right now, it's really just about the Cubs. Obviously, I found this on Instagram. It's a legit Instagram, but I don't know they didn't give a source. So as of right now, I'm not gonna believe it. But do I believe that the Rangers engaged in trade talks last deadline for Eric Hosmer with Joey Gallo? Yes, I do. And I think that they believe that they would go the alternative route with the New York Yankees and get all the prospects. We got Glenn Otto, Josh Smith, Ezekiel Duran, and why can't I can't remember. Oh yeah, Trevor Halver, and maybe two of those guys work out. Did we miss out on C.J. Abrams, Luis Campusano? Yeah, but we don't have to have Eric Hosmer's contract. I think that a team like the Cubs is perfect for this because obviously they're rebuilding. They just trade everybody from their team, and they do have money they can work with, and they're trying to rebuild their farm system so they could take on a guy like this. And I think the Pirates would be good for this too, but I think they're really cheap, so I don't think it'd work. So look for the Cubs to really be in on Eric Hosmer. But I'm saying if you were to get him, you could be creative with the money. And I think the Padres are in a situation right now where they could get desperate with the trade because they are super close to their luxury tax. But we'll see how the new luxury tax gets affected in the new collective bargaining agreement. For Mike Osman, what's up? How are you doing? How's everybody tonight? And let me know if I'm pronouncing that right. Mike Osman. So a trade I could be interested in is Will Myers. One, because it is $20 million, but it's only for 1 year. And say the Rangers take on the entirety of that contract, he's gone. He's gone. You get that $20 million back next year, and obviously, I don't think you'd get one of those top 4 prospects in Hassel, Campusano, but you still get a prospect, and if he pans out, great. If not, then whatever. And I think Will Myers, if we're being honest, he's on the same level as Cole Calhoun. It's just Cole Calhoun is getting paid at a better, a more fair rate than Will Myers because Cole Calhoun's $5.25 million and Will Myers is 20. But also, Will Myers could play left field, right field, first base, and then Eric Hosmer, he could play left, but his main thing is first, and then probably DH. From Mike, You are. Haha, most people mess it up. Nice job. Thank you. Most people mess up my name too. So it's down at the bottom. Oh shoot, that corner. Oh, screw it. So it's down at that Colin Craig. Everybody calls me Colin or whatever, but it's Colin Craig. And yeah. So I know when people say things wrong. I saw that Hosmer rumor too, and I got scared. I was like, please no. Yeah. Um, I really don't think we're trading for Hosmer. The Cubs, I could definitely see that. It just doesn't make any sense. The reason Eric Hosmer, there's a few reasons why Eric Hosmer is probably going to get traded this offseason. One, because he's not lived up to his contract, and two, people do not like he's bad chemistry in that clubhouse. Okay, and if you bring him over to Texas, does he get regular at bats? If not, would he bring our clubhouse down? That's something you have to consider. And a guy like Will Myers, if he's not playing well, you could always designate him for assignment, eat the money, and then you're done after that. But Eric Hosmer, that's 4 years. Like I said, you could get creative, but I just don't see it. From Teflon Breed, would Hosmer be an upgrade over Nathaniel Lowe or no? I don't think so. I think Nathaniel Lowe is better right now. And then if you were to give Hosmer at bats over him, I think that just hurts Nathaniel Lowe's progression. Although I'm gonna be honest, like I'm saying this with Will Myers and Eric Hosmer, they aren't garbage, okay? But are they worth their contracts? No, they aren't. So let's say if Eric Hosmer was getting paid $2 million, then I don't know if we'd be having these trade rumor discussions. I think people would consider it a valuable contract. That's just where I think it's at. He could play. Hosmer could DH. He could play left field, but I just don't know. I just don't see it working out at all. Dak Prescott. Why trade for Hosmer when we have Lowe? Exactly. Exactly. I mean, the purpose of trading for Hosmer, let's get this clear. The purpose of trading for Hosmer isn't to say, oh, we got Eric Hosmer, the former World Series player, the All-Star MVP. That's not the point. The point would be to eat his contract and get a blue chip prospect, if we're being honest. Although I just think the Rangers have so many prospects in their organization, and we have money to spend, but I think they want to spend that money on more valuable players like Suzuki, Kershaw, and then next year, who knows? It could be Clevenger, it could be Brandon Nimmo, because right now our payroll, it's jumped $70 million this offseason. It was around like $40 million at the start of this offseason. It's at $7 million. The luxury tax is somewhere around $200 million. So if you take on Hosmer's deal, it's around 14. That would take a good chunk. It's not dramatic, but let's say we get Kershaw. Let's say that's 20 million, and then Suzuki, that's 11 million. Then we're starting to get up there in the payroll, and then Hosmer could be a bad contract for us. And then would we want to be trying to trade him, and we would give a prospect? It just doesn't really make too much sense. From Mike, Hosmer's a little better defensively than Lowe at first, but Lowe is still developing. Yes, I agree with that. Dak Prescott, Lowe is cheaper and more potential, for sure. I mean, Lowe is still on his team control. He hasn't even reached arbitration years. And he's not a cancer to the clubhouse, which is good as well. From Bryce Grissom, do the Rangers have a chance to get Rizzo, when the lockout ends or no? Um, this isn't a topic I've really touched on because I don't think the Rangers really need a first baseman because we have Nathaniel Lowe. I just call him Nate Lowe. I know he got his name changed or it's Nathaniel, but I just call him Nate. But I really don't think the Rangers would. I mean, Rizzo could DH, but I think the Rangers would rather platoon or try other players at the DH spot. You have Calhoun that you could play, and I really think they want to go after a legit outfielder like Suzuki or Schwarber. I just don't think it makes too much sense for the Texas Rangers. From Mike, the only first baseman I would want to trade low for is Olsen. Otherwise, keep him and let him grow under these new coaches. Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say I wouldn't mind trading him for Castillo, but then who would be our first baseman? Yeah, I don't know who would be our first baseman, but I do think Castillo gives your team more chances to win than almost any first baseman in the league. So I still wouldn't mind trading him for Nathaniel Lowe for Olsen. This is Matt Olson, of course, because the Oakland Athletics are a dumpster fire this year. They're going to trade everybody. And that brings me into another topic about Elvis Andrus trade and Stephen Piscotty whenever we're all done with these questions. But also, I wouldn't mind trading for Luis Castillo because Luis Castillo, he can turn this rotation around. And could you imagine Castillo at the top? If we sign Kershaw and then John Gray as your number 3, that would be really good. And then you have Dane Dunning at 4, Taylor Hearn at 5. You could get an innings eater like Kikuchi, Zach Davies, but if you trade for Castillo and sign Kershaw, I do think you're done because the Rangers do have a lot of internal options. Although if you trade low for Castillo, I don't know who'd play first, but first base isn't the hardest thing to figure out. Although I know the Rangers haven't figured out first base for a long time, but still, it's not like a shortstop where there's so many shortstops. Like there's a lot of first basemen in this league. From Teflon, I'm hearing Hosmer has been just a ground ball guy, doesn't lift the ball much. I don't have much to say on this because I haven't looked too much in his stats. But if you go to Fangraphs, just look at his fly ball percentage, ground ball percentage, line drive percentage, and then you can look at those stats there and see for yourself. From Dak Prescott, what would we have to give up to get one of the Reds pitchers? So for major league players, I think I made a video on this, but it was for Luis Castillo, but I kind of forgot who I put in the trade. But I do think they'd be interested in IKF because the Reds don't really have a solid shortstop. So IKF, I know he has 2 years of team control, but that buys them some time, gives them some good defense. I do think they'd be interested in Lowe, but I don't think he really requires a deal. So let's say IKF, Justin Foscue, Colby Allard, and then a lower tier prospect. So it could be like Thomas Sagasi or Owen White. And some of these guys could be interchangeable for other players. So maybe it's not Colby Allard. Maybe it's not Owen White, but that probably gets you like to this value, and I think that gets the deal done. I think Duran, IKF, and Josh Smith. Possibly that's a good package of middle infielders, and middle infield is definitely valuable in this league. Although I bet you they would want a pitcher as well because they're giving up a pitcher, and their farm system it's probably middle tier. From Dak Prescott, Allard or Hearn? Hearn has pitched better. And he has a lot of potential. He throws his fastball is really good. He has a really good breaking ball. It's just his command. I like Kobe Allard a lot. I've said this a lot on the channel, but if you look at his stuff, it's not anything special. And if his command's not there, then he's not gonna have a good outing. So I think Hearn's better. Um, but I just like Kobe Allard a lot, but I think Hearn's better, and I think he provides really good value out of the bullpen because um he could be a closer, um, or just a setup. Like I think anywhere in the bullpen could work for him. Again from Dak Prescott, and then throw in Allard. Yeah. Allard's just too up and down for me. Yeah, I I agree because he's definitely shown signs of, oh man, this guy could be three, a third player, a third arm in the rotation, and then he goes on a stretch where he has four bad outings in a row. Because I remember 2 years ago, um, he blanked like the Angels and had like 12 strikeouts. But he's just a guy where it's like, okay, if you don't figure it out now, then your time might be done. But then you look at it, oh, he's only 23. He's so he's kind of confusing for me. Mike Osmond, have you seen BP's new prospect rating? They have Owen White at like 5 or 6 for us going into 2022. No, I haven't seen baseball perspectives. I usually just look at MLB.com. For me, it's just easier to see, but it's a lot of opinions. So obviously, they have Owen White jumping up a lot, and that's based of what he did in the Arizona Fall League this year. He dominated there. And so this was a guy we drafted in the second round back in 2018. So it was um, Colwyn, Owen White, and then Colwyn's been spectacular in our farm system. But we all know Owen White, he's barely even played for us. He's always been injured. I don't think he's the 5th or the 6th prospect, if I'm being honest. I probably need to do my own prospect ranking. Because all these are opinions, so I can just throw my opinion out there. But I could definitely see him making a big jump. Because I think he's like 30th, 29th, somewhere in that lower tier on MLB.com. So I can definitely see him getting into the teens for sure. Teflon Breed, what happened to Ron Guzman? Is he gone? Yeah, so obviously I bet you know that he tore his ACL and he hasn't played. So he tore his ACL. I think most people know that. But if he didn't, he tore his ACL. That's why he didn't play much of this year. He played like a few games. And then the Rangers put him on this 60-day IL. And then that's really been the story for Guzman. The Rangers outrighted him a month ago. That sounds about right. And basically, he's had, like, he could sign back with the Rangers, but he's going to look for a better situation elsewhere. So he's basically a free agent right now. From Mike, you should do a farm ranking. I would love that. All right. So should I do a video to where it's just like I go over like my top 30 in that one video, or should I break it down like one video at a time, like my number 1, my number 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll tell you this. My top 1 is definitely Jack Leiter, and my number 2 is definitely Josh Young. I'll let you know that. But yeah, stay tuned for those videos because obviously I definitely think sometimes I look at Fangraphs ratings or just like Baseball America. I'm like, man, you have that guy way too high or you have this guy way too low. But at the end of the day, it's everybody's opinions. But it's also they use like how they've played. So if they're playing bad, then they're gonna fall, and if they're playing good, they're gonna jump up in the rankings. Dak Prescott. What should we do with guys like Willie, Solak, and Guzman? Well, we don't have Guzman anymore, but for Willie and Solak, and let me just throw these names into the equation. Yanni Hernandez, Eli White, Andy Ibanez. I honestly think if the Rangers are legitimately interested in Matt Olson, Luis Castillo, then some of these guys could be used as trade pieces. Nick Solak in particular, I think he has the most trade value because the middle of the infield's roadblocked. DH could be a spot for Willie Calhoun. I definitely think the Rangers are going to go after an outfielder, Suzuki or Schwarber. And then you have Adolis in center, Cole, Calhoun in right, although I think he'll be a platoon. And then I think Andy Ibanez, he actually had a really underrated season. I didn't realize this till last night when I looked at some of his stats. He could be a platoon with Cole Calhoun, but some of these guys will play in the minors because they have options. But I think some could be used as trade chips because they still have potential, but maybe they just need a change of scenery. From Mike. Oh, also going back to the last question from Dak. Spring training helps figure this out a lot because whenever we trade for Nate Lowe last year, we're like, oh, it's the end for Guzman. And ultimately it kind of was, but he played well in spring training and he made the roster. And if he didn't get injured, you never know. But spring training helps figure out a lot. From Mike. Might be hard to put 30 in one video, but 10 to 15 would be cool. All right. I could definitely do that. From Dak. I would keep Ibanez as a bench bat because he crushes lefties. Yeah, I looked at his stats on lefties literally last night, I think, and it's actually insane. Obviously, you don't play against lefties a majority of the time. So say if a guy gets injured, you still want him to get comfortable against right-handed hitters. But if you have the luxury to where it's like Cole Calhoun versus right-handed pitchers and the Ibanez versus left, then I think that's a really solid option. How would you construct that lineup? Not too sure. I think the Rangers lineup is a little confusing right now because you don't know who the third baseman is going to be. I really do think Josh Young will make the majors. But if you don't trade IKF, I think IKF will have a role. Who's going to be the DH? Things like that. Luis Dominguez, is there a chance we could get all three pitchers from from Cincinnati, or we don't have the pieces for all three? I think we have the pieces. I do think we have the pieces, but I don't want to be like the Padres and pretty much lose our entire farm system. Because let's be honest, it would require. I don't think it would take Jack Leiter, Josh Young, Cole Winn. But if you want to get those three guys, I think everybody else is up for grabs. So I really don't think the Rangers do that at all. Dak Prescott. Getting all three would be, next to impossible. Let's be honest, they're not going to get two. If we get one, that would be awesome, if I'm being honest. And all those guys only have 2 years of club control remaining, so you're giving up your entire farm system, which we've built which has taken us so long, and you just trade the way for guys who will probably leave you in free agency. Like maybe you extend Castillo, but Mailey and Sonny Gray, those guys might be gone. And let's just think of how our contention window ended in 2016 or 17. It's because our top prospects didn't pan out, and then we didn't have a farm system to replace those guys that didn't pan out. So I think the Rangers have learned from their past mistakes, and they definitely wouldn't go down that road and just trade away the farm system. I've said this multiple times on the channel. I'm okay with going after a Castillo or a Olsen, because those guys can make a, a difference, a big difference on your team. But don't trade away the entire farm system. Keep developing guys to help your team out. Because if those trades don't pan out, you still have insurance policies. Man, I hope Leclerc isn't injury prone. I like that kid. Yeah, I like him too. And it's interesting about his contract. So he gets like $5.25 million this year. It's pretty similar to Cole Calhoun's deal. And then he has 2 club options after this year. So if he doesn't pitch well, then honestly, the Rangers could decline it and he's gone. If he pitches well, we just accept it and it's a steal. Although, if say the Rangers don't do particularly well this year, if he stays healthy and Leclerc is pitching well, then he could be used as a potential trade piece, maybe. Obviously, he'll have to regain his value because he's been injured for 2 seasons. But Leclerc's been really good in the past. Obviously, we can't expect him to be the same after these injuries, although it'll be interesting going forward how they approach Leclerc. Do they use him as a trade piece? Do they see him as part of the future? Because honestly, as of right now, I don't really know. Although, if he does pitch well, his contract could be really team-friendly. From Bryce, do you think Corey Seager will have a breakout year this year? I don't know if you can really consider it a breakout year when this guy has already been an all-star. But if he stays healthy and just does what he usually does, then I don't think he'll be like an MVP, but I think he'll be an all-star and have a really good impact on the team. From Dak, who would have a closer and 8th inning guy? Oh, okay. So I've gone over this a little bit on the channel on some past live streams, but I think Joe Barlow should be your closer. Just because he was in that role and he excelled, and I don't think there's a reason you should take it away from him because he played well in that role. As far as the 8th inning guy, the thing is Leclerc and Jonathan Hernandez are going to be out till late May. So that's basically 2 months into the season without those guys who could definitely be your setup guys. So once those guys get back, and granted they're pitching like they can, those guys can be your setup guys. You have Joe Barlow as the 9th, and that's hopefully how the season goes. Although until those guys are healthy, you can look at Spencer Patton, maybe Brett Martin, John King if he's healthy. But definitely Spencer Patton. I'm not too sure about the other guy. That's why I broke down some players the Rangers could target in free agency at the relief pitcher. I do think they'll target at least one guy to a major league contract and then a few guys to minor league deals because teams always go after guys on minor league deals. That's how we got Ian Kennedy last year. He made the team. We got Spencer Patton on a minor league deal. He made the team eventually. Matt Bush was a minor league deal. Danny Santana, Hunter Pence. So even though they don't always get added to the 40-man right away, that doesn't mean they can't. Oh, yeah, Spores or Santana. I think they have the potential, but I don't think they proved that they should be that guy right away, if that makes sense. From Samuel, what's up? Seager and Simeon will finish top 5 in the MVP voting next year. Maybe Simeon, because he's finished top 3 twice in his career, so if he just does what he usually does, then yeah, but I don't think Seager has ever been that high on the MVP voting before. Although if you're talking about a breakout year, if Seager's in the conversation for MVP, then obviously I think that would be a breakout. Going back to Bryce's question, that would possibly be a breakout year. I think if he keeps it up, stays healthy, then that would probably be one of his best seasons yet. I think we all remember when Christian Yelich, it was Yelich and Bellinger going for MVP, and we really didn't know who was going to win. And then Yelich got injured. So I think health is the biggest thing. So if you're just joining us, the topic of today's video was an Eric Hosmer trade rumor to the Rangers. It was on Instagram. However, if you just go into Google, type in Eric Hosmer to the Rangers, there's nothing. Basically, it's all trade rumors to the Cubs. I don't think it makes sense at all. I think the reason why this rumor popped up on Instagram is because I think the Rangers were talking with the Padres last year at the deadline about Hosmer potentially for a Gallo deal, and then you get a top prospect like CJ Abrams, Capizano, Gore. I doubt it, but they didn't do it then. Do I think they would do it now? I don't think so. I've said this. You could get creative with the contract. You could make it more dollars and like this year, next year, and less dollars down the road. You could defer some of the money, but I just don't think it makes sense. Will Myers could make sense. And then while we're on this topic, obviously teams are interested in Matt Olson, and he's from the Oakland Athletics. The Oakland Athletics want to trade basically their entire team because they're just at that point. People are about to be free agents and they can't re-sign all of them. So I've heard other reports that the Yankees might be interested in Elvis Andrus to take on his contract and make the Matt Olson deal less expensive, like prospect capital. Although an Elvis Andrus deal isn't so easy when it's all said and done, because he has, so basically he's getting paid around $14 million this year. The Rangers are paying like $7.25, and the Oakland Athletics are picking the rest up to like 6 something. So on paper, that doesn't look bad. For the Yankees, it's like, okay, a stopgap in Elvis Andrus. We know he's not going to do anything with the bat. Defensively, he's adequate, and then you get a shortstop for $6 million. I mean, they could probably still get IKF, but you get Matt Olson in the process, and you give up less prospects. Although the thing is, there's a clause in Elvis Andrus' contract that if he gets traded or claimed off waivers, his 2023 option becomes a player option, and that's $15 million. And so a team like the Yankees, they would obviously get Matt Olson and then like the $6 million that's on Elvis's contract, but then they're on the hook for $15 million next year. So that's something that teams have to consider, especially like a team like the Yankees who are close to luxury tax already. And then Elvis Andrus' contract would jump almost more than 2 times next year. That's something that you have to consider. Although you could go after a guy like Steven Piscotty. I know that the Yankees, they don't really need a shortstop, but maybe you look at it from the Rangers' perspective. The Rangers we don't need a shortstop. Could we use an outfielder or a fourth outfielder off the bench? Sure, we could. Steven Piscotty isn't what he used to be like 4 years ago. But if he's off the bench, maybe just platoon him with Cole Calhoun, because I've said I think Cole Calhoun will be a platoon. Steven Piscotty, I think he's getting like $7 million this year, and he has I want to say 15 million or 11 million club option for next year. Although you could literally just decline that, and there's no like special clauses in that at all. Although you just have to buy him out for $1 million. So a team like the Rangers who are interested in Matt Olson, you could be like, okay, we'll take on Piscotty, and we'll give up less prospects. So maybe we wouldn't have to give up Foscue. Maybe it's Josh Smith instead. I don't know. Something to consider, something to keep your mind on, because sometimes bad contracts by other teams can help you. And if you just have Piscotty for 1 year, decline that club option, I don't think it really hurts you in the long run. And so if it's you give him $7 million this year and then a $1 million buyout, that's only $8 million invested, and you help get Matt Olson for less prospects. I think that could be something the Rangers should look at. But Elvis Andrus, the Rangers should not go after Elvis Andrus because we don't need a shortstop. He wants to be a starting player, and it just won't work out for the Rangers or Elvis in Texas. New York, that could be interesting. But for the Rangers, maybe look at Piscotty to alleviate the prospect. Going back to the comments from Dak Prescott. If the Rangers are in the mix for a playoff spot, do you think they would be buyers or stay pat? I think it depends, because I think okay, we have a legitimate chance, or we don't have a chance, because sometimes just teams get lucky. But if they were to buy, maybe you're buying players that could help you for the future. So not just like 1 year rentals, players that could help you in the long run. But also it'll also be interesting to see how players are playing, because if everybody's playing well, then will we really need to add anybody? But say we really need a starter, and there's a guy who can get 3 years of control of, maybe that's something we'd have to consider. So it's not something I can say right now. It's definitely a situational thing, and you have to play it and see what the team's needs are. From Samuel, back in 2016, Seager finished third in MVP voting. That was the year he won Rookie of the Year. Oh, I think, was that his best year? I don't have like any stats pulled up right now, but I'll tell you this, he probably was healthy that entire year. So if he stays healthy this entire year, that could be good things. And if you think about it, if you guys watch the NBA, I don't watch too much of it, but load management is a thing. Kawhi Leonard, he's my favorite player. He does load management. If let's say he doesn't, I don't think he plays 162 games. I think that's out of the question. But let's say you rest him like once every 2 weeks. And if you keep IKF, that allows you to keep a legitimate shortstop to replace him when he needs a day off. And maybe, okay, Seager misses 1 game every 2 weeks. Maybe that prevents him from missing 10 days on the IL or a month on the IL. That's something to consider. Teams need to consider the long haul of the season versus just day to day. Obviously, you're playing to win. So you're going out and you want your team to win that day, but you also have to consider future ramifications as well. From Teflon Breed, what do you think of Chris Woodward's tenure so far? I haven't been impressed, haven't been unimpressed. What do you guys think? I'm curious to hear what you say about Chris Woodward's tenure. Back in 2019, his first year, I thought that was a really good year. Didn't have too much expectations to begin with, and I think we almost had a winning. We're almost at 500, and then it's actually gone downhill from there. But I think our talent has gone downhill, so I don't know if it's actually a fair assessment when you don't really have quality talent on the field. But I think this is his prove it year. Well, actually, his option, he got an extension, but he has talent on the field now. Obviously, it's not like the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Red Sox, but we can definitely be a winning team this year. So if we follow those expectations, then it's going to be interesting. And obviously Chris Ward has done a good job recruiting like good coaches. Tim Hires, the hitting coach from the Red Sox, Donnie Eckert, the hitting coach from the Giants. So I like that aspect. But one thing I'm curious is he's so focused on his Dodger players. I don't think that's a bad thing, but does that keep him off track of other players that could help the organization? Because we just look at we got Brett the Guys, he's no longer with us. Josh Spores, Dennis Santana, DJ Peters. I know there's so many more players. Well, obviously Corey Seager, like that guy's legit, but does it eliminate him from other players that could actually make an impact instead of like the Zach Rex and the Billy McKinney? Like Billy McKinney's already gone. Zach Rex, if we need a 40-man, he's gone too. So what point did we do that trade for? So that's what I think. What do you guys think about Chris Woodward? Put in the comment section. Bryce, who do you think the Rangers are going to try to get in the 2022 draft? I'm going to pull up the draft class just so I'm a little bit more like I usually don't study the draft class too far in advance. I know Jace Young, he's legit. There's Kumar Rocker, concerns about his elbow injury. Elijah Green, he looks like he could be a 5-tool player. There's some college catchers in the draft class who kind of intrigue me because I don't really know what's going to happen with Sam Huff. And those just so far away that it's hard to pinpoint one player. Because if we're looking back to last year, Kumar Rocker was going number 1 to the Pirates. And we were going to be lucky if he fell to us at number 2. And then he fell all the way to 10 or 11 to the Mets. And he didn't end up signing because of his elbow issues. And then Judd Fabian, this is actually on a channel on the video, or a video on the channel from a year ago. But it was who the Rangers should target with the number 2 overall pick. It was Kumar Rocker. That was my number 1 option. Judd Fabian, the outfielder from Florida. And both those guys got drafted, but it was late in the first round. Judd Fabian the second. None of those guys signed. And then my third option that I didn't really care about was Jack Leiter. And then now he's a legit prospect that could be an ace. But obviously, Elijah Green, if he continues hit what he's doing, his trajectory, if it keeps on going up, that guy could be legit. Jace Young, I don't think he has the highest potential in the world, but he could be a safe pick. And I really am interested about those college catchers. From Samuel Sandite, I do hope another outfielder and starting pitcher is the Rangers' next moves after the lockout. Yeah, I really think it will be. So I think the Rangers will get an outfielder. So whether it be Seiya Suzuki or Kyle Schwarber, so they will go play left field, and then you have Adolis at center, Kyle Calhoun and right. But then no matter what, I think you're getting 2 more starting pitchers, whether it be Clayton Kershaw and Carlos Rodon, both of those guys. I don't think that's going to happen. It could, but that's 2 more. Or you could sign Clayton Kershaw, trade for Luis Castillo. That is 2 more. Or sign Clayton Kershaw or Carlos Rodon and sign a more affordable innings eater. So say like Zach Davies, Yusei Kikuchi, Danny Duffy. Those are some guys. I think that third option where you get like the ace and Kershaw and then the innings eater is more likely. I'm not going to count out the Castillo. Although if we get Castillo, will we be out on Kershaw and Rodon? That's a question right there. And will we go after innings eaters instead? So I definitely think it'll be 1 outfielder, 2 starters, and then 1 guy in the bullpen on a major league deal. So that's 4 guys. That's what I think the Rangers will do. And obviously look out for those minor league signings as well. Who would cost less, Gray or Major? What? Gray or Major? Major. Who's Major? Major. Dak, I don't really understand your question. Oh, hold on. Melee. Oh, okay. So Dak Prescott is referring to the Cincinnati Reds pitchers. I think Luis Castillo, he's an ace. You trade for him, you get an ace. Sonny Gray, I think he's a good number 2. I don't think he's an ace. And Tyler Mahle, he pitched really, really well this season, but he doesn't have a track record. That's what concerns me. So I really think Tyler Mahle actually would be more expensive than Sonny Gray. 1, because he's younger, and 2, because he is cheaper. Sonny Gray is getting like 10 or 11 million, and then he has a club option next year for I think 15 million. So I think the order and how they're most expensive is Castillo, Mahle, and then Gray. Yeah. If you guys don't know, we have a Discord on the channel, but what I've figured out is I think the Discord links, it's an invite link that I get from Discord. I think those expire after a certain amount of time. So I'll put the Discord link in the chat, and you guys can join the Discord and talk 24/7 on the Rangers. Because actually, where I broke the news about the Eric Hosmer rumor was on the Discord. I saw it on Instagram, took a screenshot, put in the Discord, and we talked about it there first. And how it's not really a legit option, but yeah, that's where we talked about. So where's my phone? I'll send out the link again from Luis Dominguez. Do you think Dane Dunning has the potential to be a future ace? And how do you predict this year will go for him? I don't think he'll be an ace, but I could definitely see a third guy in the rotation. And let's be honest, I used to think that if they're not an ace, then they suck, because like they're not going to be an all-star, but you have to value a number 2, a number 3, even the number 4 guy that can eat some innings. And I really do think Dane Dunning, I think if we signed Kershaw and then like a Zach Davies, it would go Kershaw, Gray, Davies, Dunning, and then like Taylor Hearn. But Dane Dunning has a legitimate chance to climb up a notch in that rotation. Knock Zach Davies down to number 4, and Dunning could be number 3. I do think he'll have a really solid year. His ERA was around 4s. I think it could go to a low 4 this year. And I think if he just stays healthy, get past that first inning, and pitches consistent this year, I think it's not going to be like, oh my God, he's going to an all-star game. But I think it'll be like, wow, Dane Dunning put in a really productive year. He didn't tax our bullpen. We got innings out of him. If he has a season like that, then I think it will be pretty good for the Rangers. Let me find this Discord link. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think about an Eric Hosmer trade? I don't think it's real. Cubs, that makes a lot of sense. What do you think? Will Myers instead, taking on his contract, picking up a prospect. I'm all about building the farm system. I mean, that prospect might not pan out, but you gave yourself the chance. Never leave anything to chance. Or flip the script and go after Stephen Piscotty within a Matt Olson trade to alleviate some of the prospects that you would give up. What do you think about that? And then what are your thoughts on Chris Woodward's tenure? Because I actually was going to make a video this year, show the Rangers fire Chris Woodward, and then they gave him an extension. He hasn't had a winning season, but I think this year will tell us a lot. And real quick, I do have to use the bathroom, so obviously if you have to go, that's all right. But I'll be back to answer more questions in about 2 minutes. No way. I still have a majority of the people watching. That's crazy. Thank y'all for watching, even though I was using the bathroom. Where did my phone go? Oh, here it is. So, basically, I'm gonna try to send off this this link. Oh, there's the dog from Mike. I think Woody has been a really good for the long-term goals for the organization that the organization has. He's good with the players and he's savvy with the analytics and building systems, or seems to be. Yeah, it seems like the front office really likes him, so I think that goes a long way if we're being honest. I couldn't really tell if the players liked him, but I think they do now, just from some insight I've gotten off articles. So I think he's the right man for the job this year, but for future years, we'll see. Because if we get to a place where the roster is good and we're not winning, let's say the Padres, maybe it's time to make a change. Do you think Garcia will have another All-Star year? No, I don't. Because he has to work on his on-base skills. He strikes out way too much. If he fixes that, then there's a chance. But it's I think he really needs to work on those on-base skills. Like if you look at his weighted runs created, it was at 100, and that's literally league average is 100. So I think we get fooled by his month of April and all the home runs he's hit, but in reality, he faded off really bad at the end of last year. He doesn't walk at all. So I think he really needs to work on his on-base skills. Do you see Garcia's name being in the trade conversations? I haven't really thought about that right now. Earlier when he was playing really well, I'm thinking this guy could get us some prospects. But could he be in a Castillo trade, a Matt Olson trade? It's not out of the question. But if we're looking at it from the Rangers' perspective, yes, he was an all-star. Maybe he gets back to being an all-star again. But you have a cheap, controllable player. Although the thing is, he's old. Well, older, like 28 or 29. And you don't know how long that he'll be able to maintain it. So maybe you take advantage of while his value's at its highest. Or is it even at his highest right now, because he faded off really bad towards the end of last season. Obviously, his glove was good. He's a good base runner. But he's another guy that's really interesting, because I know I've been just saying, like, oh, we'll have Suzuki in left, Garcia at center, but I do think there is question marks surrounding Garcia being a good player for us. We do have Tavares if we need him. We have Eli White if we need him. But, I mean, we kind of got lucky to have him in the first place, so it's not we just got him for cash considerations from the Cardinals. So if we miss out on him, it's not the worst thing in the world. But if you capitalize on his trade value, that could be something right there. But he does seem like a guy that is really liked in the clubhouse. So trading a guy like that might send mixed signals to the organization, but I don't think it's out of the question. It's just kind of tough to figure out that one right now. See ya, Mike. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Oh, I found the invite link. Hold up. Copy. Wait. So if you guys aren't aware, I am um, putting out the invite link for the Discord. So if you guys aren't on the Discord, click the link that I'm about to put in the chat. Join the Discord, and that way we can talk about. We'll basically just have a group chat for Rangers all year long and into the season. I'm really missing out on baseball right now. Obviously, no baseball is played during this time, anyways. But I mean, with the new guys we have, Seager, Simeon, it's like, oh man, I can't wait to go to a game, see the players play. It's gonna be exciting. I didn't see this game, but my brother went to a Rangers game versus the Yankees. He saw Corey Kluber no hit the Yankees. I mean the Rangers, and then my other brother saw um the Rangers play the Yankees, and Joey Gallo hit 2 bombs and he threw out a guy. So yeah. Oh, okay. So Discord links expire every 7 days. So I think the Discord link that's in the description is probably valid, but here it is anyways. So that's the Discord link. Click that, join the Discord. From Teflon Breed, Leody Tavares confuses me. Can't really tell if he's good or not. Yeah, so I think in 2016 he was 19, our number 1 overall prospect, and like the 28th overall prospect in the MLB. I'm like, this guy maybe hits for a little bit of power, like 20 home runs a year, and then hits for average, speed, defense. He could be a legit dude. But the thing that's confusing me the most is that whenever, like, obviously his power has ticked down, but when he's always gotten like good reviews for the strike zone, and then whenever, first of all, we've probably rushed him through the major leagues. It's like, oh, he's an elite defender, and he's fast. But then we call him up to the majors, he's striking out, striking out, striking out. And then you put him down in AAA, he's hitting home runs. I think he hit 20 home runs in AAA this year. And it's like, what are you doing? But he's still striking out a lot. And yeah, it's confusing. He's a switch hitter, so it takes time, just like Jonah Heim. But I'm not considering him a sure, like, top prospect anymore. I think I made a video a year ago. It's like, Rangers have a bright future. We have 4 prospects on the MLB 100 list or whatever. Leody was on that list. It was Leody, Dane Dunning, Josh Young, and Sam Huff. Not so sure about Leody. Dunning definitely has value for this organization. Josh Young definitely does. Sam Huff, interesting. I think he's better at first base, but we'll see about that. From Luis, I know I'm probably pushing too much on these trade scenarios, but I personally am not too convinced on Garcia, and his age is a factor. I would love to see a trade for Olsen and maybe an outfielder. Yeah, I know what you mean with Garcia. Like, there's definitely, I think, more reasons to be worried about him producing again next year. And it's kind of interesting to say produce because, like, he hit home runs, he got the RBIs, but nowadays teams look more than just the home runs and the RBIs. And his advanced stats weren't really good. I mean, I'll look at his baseball savant, Adolis Garcia baseball savant. But I mean, he's 28 or 29. Obviously, whenever you get older, you won't be able to play the all center field. Just look at Mike Trout, the best player in the game. I'm saying the best player in the game. He probably needs to move to left field. So Adolis is 28. The thing is, if you're another team, how do you put a value on Adolis? Because he's 28. Yeah, he kind of flashed this year. He was an all-star. Was in consideration for Rookie of the Year, but his hitting stats weren't that great. But he hits the ball hard. He barrels the ball. He's a good defensive player. He has speed, but he swings and misses a lot. He doesn't walk. It's kind of hard to put a value on that. And yes, you have team control, but he's going to be like 34 whenever that contract is up. So it's difficult. I don't think you're giving up a top prospect. I don't know how much it alleviates a Matt Olson deal or a Luis Castillo deal. It's a weird trade scenario. From Bryce, you think Simeon is going to get another Gold Glove at second? I mean, there's no reason not to. Obviously, let's say nobody gets injured, okay? If nobody gets injured, you have to consider that he is an older player, so just your body could regress a little bit. And then you have other players that come into the league and they're defensive wizards. So you always have to consider that. But, I mean, I think he could do it again. Definitely. And I think this would be his first full year at second base. I mean, last year he had a few reps at short, but I think this would be his full year at second base. So just concentrating on that position, and that could pay dividends on the offensive side as well. I hope with the new hitting coaches, we can see Nate Lowe, Solak, Calhoun, and even Garcia be better. We do need some improvement for these players. Yeah, and I would even mention what's his name, Jonah Heim, because I said it in yesterday's video that I posted on the channel. I think he does have not like, oh my God, he's gonna be Salvador Perez, but if you were just like, I don't know, like maybe Max Stassi, does that count? Max Stassi, but obviously he's a better defender. All of those guys that you listed have potential. Calhoun, he was our prize prospect in the Yu Darvish deal. Garcia, he was kind of like the last fry in the bag or a diamond in the rough from the Cardinals, and it kind of panned out for the Rangers. I think what we're talking about right now is good options. Like, do we trade Garcia or do we just keep him? I think those are good options to have. But all these guys on the list are kind of like, they haven't really performed well except Nate Lowe. Nate Lowe actually had a solid season last year, and I look for him to take that step forward. I think the three other people you listed, I think need to get relevant again because Solak got sent down, Calhoun's been injured, and Garcia, if he gets his on base right, then I think he could be good. And just look at, so our hitting coach is Tim Hires from the Red Sox. Whenever he was the hitting coach on the Red Sox, his offense was always a top 3 offense. And granted, they had guys like Xander Bogaerts, Alex Verdugo, JD Martinez. They had sluggers. And then, but I mean, still, we have guys now, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. It's not like we're the best lineup in the league, but I think he can develop some guys. Like, he had to develop Rafael Devers because obviously he's a top prospect, but top prospects struggle. So you can develop Josh Young. You can develop guys that, like, you know what I'm saying here. He has developed guys. Like, yes, he's been given good players, but you have to develop them or take them to the next level. And Donnie Eckert, he basically helped turn around the Giants' offense this year. Nobody expected anything out of the Giants, and he helped turn that around. So, and Donnie Eckert is our offensive coordinator. And I didn't really know that was a position until he got hired as it. From Luis, sometimes I wonder if we could get Gary Sanchez from the Yankees for scrap and maybe revive his career. We don't have catchers that are considered elite hitters anyways. Would that be an option? No. Even if it was, I wouldn't really want Gary Sanchez anyways. He sucks at defense. I think he's lazy. He has power, but I think that there's so many things that a good defensive catcher does that doesn't get appreciated, like framing, pitch sequence. I don't think Gary Sanchez could provide that to the table, and I think he's around $6 million this year. Gary Sanchez contract. I think he's a free agent after this year, so I don't think that makes too much sense if I'm being honest. I'm pulling up his Spot Track contract right now. I love the Spot Track website. I use it for pretty much everything. He's a free agent after this year, so I mean maybe you look at him in free agency, maybe, but definitely don't trade for him. Yeah, so we do have hitting coaches, but I would rather them work on a guy like Jonah Heim, who you have for multiple years, instead of a guy like Gary Sanchez, who like he struggled, but I think you'd have to give up prospects for Gary Sanchez, whether that's Jordan Apostle, Davis Wenzel, Ricky Venasco. I don't know. Don't give up Ricky Venasco. You'd have to give up prospects, and then boom, he's a free agent. So if he plays well, maybe you just throw a qualifying offer on him, and it's like, okay, maybe that worked for Rangers, maybe not, because then you get a compensation, or you develop a guy like Jonah Heim. Those are my thoughts right there. So I appreciate everybody who's watching right now or has watched this live stream. I'm gonna end in about a minute, so throw in any more comments that you have and I'll answer them. But basically, I'm gonna keep on my regular schedule. So I post like a normal video Monday, a normal video Tuesday, a live stream Wednesday, then normal video Thursday, normal video Friday, take a day off Saturday, and then a live stream on Sunday. So tomorrow will be another video, the car videos, and then back to a live stream on Sunday. Really appreciate everybody for watching. Please like if you do like the video, because that helps out the channel a lot, and subscribe because I'm here for you guys all off season and into the season as well. And join the Discord so we can talk even when I'm not making Texas Rangers videos. And share the content. You have friends and family that like the Rangers. Share it with them. We can grow this community together, because I recently just hit 400 subscribers. Around a year ago, I was at 100. I'm growing because of you guys, so I appreciate it. So I'll give it like 30 more seconds. Yep. See you, man. Have a good Christmas. Let's see. I'll be live streaming, so I'll be live streaming Sunday. So I'll probably that'll be past Christmas. Have a good Christmas, guys. Have a good Christmas. Thanks for the no problem, Luis. I appreciate it. And for all of you guys sticking around, I'm thinking about doing a giveaway for just hitting 400. I have a sports card collection, either Josh Young or Justin Foscue. I'm gonna try to figure that out. I don't really know how to do giveaways right now, but I'll figure that out and probably talk about that in one of my upcoming upcoming videos. But thanks again for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.